Hi everyone, I'm Cassie, and today's topic might ruffle some feathers because we will be talking about a very adored sport, American football. There is a lot, depending on where you stand in the demographic that, likes football, there's either a lot of negative on one side of the spectrum, and there's on the other side a lot of really intense, almost divine connotations to the sport and for its enthusiasts. I feel like football has its own subcategory when talking about sports, especially in the United States. However, as you hopefully all know by now, these video essays are part of Bandersnatch, which is the school newspaper here at John Abbott, which for those who don't know is in Montreal, Canada. So you might be thinking, why are you even bringing this up? Listen, we have a huge cult-like following of American football here right on campus, showing you that at some point in the sport's influence, it had bled into other places around the world. Today, I want to explore why people take football so freaking seriously. I will also explain, as best as I can, some of the rules, because for other people like me who didn't know how to play football until I started doing research for this video, it might help you understand what's going on and why people care so much. And I also will be talking about its presence in pop culture and connections to the American dream. Let's talk about it. So I don't play football, and I did have to do some extensive research to understand how the game works. Here's what I understood. Football is played by two teams of 11 players each on a 120-yard, it's very American, yard field, with the goal being to score points. Duh. The game starts with a kickoff, and the teams have 4 downs to gain 10 yards onto the other team's area and continue playing. Honestly, it's not too important for the content of this video, but it is super important to note that football tends to be quite violent for a contact sport even, and is super popular. Let's start with the burning question. Why is football called football when the foot-to-ball touching is very limited? Unlike a sport like soccer, which isn't considered real football, especially in the United States, even if it's all foot-to-ball touching. Make any sense? And also, don't most sports require you to use your feet in some way? And it's definitely not unique to American football. According to The Hill, the origin of the word is kind of unclear, but it is hypothesized to come from the late Middle Ages, where playing on the ground with your feet was kind of new and rare, as opposed to a sport more common like polo, which was on horseback. The sport of American football emerged in the US in its two English predecessors, rugby and soccer, also called association football. Like most sports do, football started off in colleges. Many football enthusiasts mark the day of November 6th, 1869 as the real birthday of the sport, since it's the first real college game between the Rutgers and Princeton, even if the sport has evolved a lot over time. The man responsible for the new model of American football that we see today is called Walter Camp, a Yale alumnus. He was one of the great forces that started the Intercollegiate Football Association, also known as IFA, which was charged with regulation and rules of collegiate football. They made some big changes, like the legalization of blocking, down, and distance rules, and the all-important line of scrimmage, according to Dynasty Sports Blog. The explosion in popularity the sport saw created some real heated rivalries between different schools, and that contributed to the aggressive stereotype of football players that we see now, even if it's basically written into your sport and into its culture to hate your rival. Traveling clubs started popping up outside of universities and started playing against each other, which only worsened tensions between clubs. The first player to be paid for football was William Helfinger, and he was paid about $500 illegally to play a game because it wasn't allowed to play for money in 1892. During World War I, people started getting recruited from across state lines to play for these local clubs because talent wasn't always local. This quickly transitioned into the billion-dollar industry we know today, with the creation of the American Professional Football Association in 1920, and they changed it to the National Football League, or NFL, a couple years later. Football rapidly became known as America's sport, and there's some real propaganda behind that. According to Feature, quote, "Football has become more than just a game. It has become a symbol of strength, toughness, and teamwork, attributes many Americans cherish. They state that the sport and the United States have shared values and moral identity, leading to the fusion of the two, which creates an even deeper sense of pride and unique indicator of culture. It is said to bring the American people together as a nation with its own cultural identity for unity purposes." Feature also says that the sport has become, quote, a source of pride and patriotism, and, quote, a beacon of hope and ambition, encouraging individuals to push their limits and pursue their dreams. Now that's propaganda if I've ever seen it. I feel like this is a really cute and unifying concept, but because of the American identity, there's an inherent place for discrimination in this supposedly unified sport. The sport started in civil wars in schools where only white men could participate, not even to mention the hell that black and female counterparts were living at the time. Throughout the years, people of color and women have forced their way into the scene with talent and determination, but that spot was earned and forcibly given up. We need to remember that when considering American values. I know for a fact that every single person watching this video has seen or heard some point in their lives about the American cheerleader football trope in media, at least once. It's crazy how popular this overdone couple has become. There's definitely a feminist angle and a homoerotic tinge to the sport of football, but for the purposes of this video not being 2 years long, I'm not going to talk about those. I will leave some articles down below that explore those subjects very, very well, but for today's purposes, I will be sticking to the American idealism angle. We think America, especially as foreigners, think football games and cheerleaders and red dye 40. Perfect and fake and very boy, girl next door type ideas. It's all on purpose. It's been projected as an image of illusion from the United States through every single high school drama movie ever made. Literally think of one that doesn't have it. Mean Girls, Breakfast Club, Grease, all of the kissing booths. There are so many parody movies to make fun of the popularity of the trope that have become popular in and of themselves, like not another teen movie. My point is that it's been fabricated to project a wholesome image of the United States, when I think that we are all currently aware of what the country is capable of doing and has done and is currently doing. It's made to distract the media from digging deeper into the real American morality while profiting off of the fake one. It's definitely well done, a little too well, because we are still getting fed propaganda every day. New shows like the DCC Cheerleaders are coming out, explaining the application part of being an American in a cracking illusion. According to Iowa Capital Dispatch, quote, football is a reflection of America's hierarchical, industrial economy and our military. As they compare the players and coaches to leaders and soldiers, the game is a metaphor for war, where winning, capturing enemy territory, and violence are the goal. That's to not even mention the rituals and symbols and myths that football teams have been indulging in for years, calling them traditions, like tailgates, to name the least problematic few. Unlike the mascots and names that make fun of indigenous cultures and cultural misappropriation, or even the push towards toxic fan culture, which brings safety concerns and normalizes glamorizing violence. Not only has the sports traditions been racist and sexist in the past, and just straight up weird, there has been a lot of toxicity for a sport that is such a high performance of masculinity. It's a show and a game, and people take it so seriously, and hate is being normalized because it's needed for the game to work. But we tend to symbolize the players too much. They're athletes who train and who are promised sustainable income and lives doing what they love, but they are unfairly treated like symbols for something they don't always represent, in the name of not losing their jobs. Not everyone has the privilege to speak out against racism and capitalistic traditions, a place where people are promised to work for patriotism, and slowly, as the veil of wholesome tradition is lifted, there's the soft white underbelly of racism and American dream propaganda. On a lighter note, professional leagues are one thing, and the hype to that makes sense to me, but I really didn't understand why college football was such a big deal, especially in the United States. According to the College Sports of American, yikes, it's because they have their own governing body that operates separately from bigger leagues, and therefore put in a lot of effort to create that hype. There's also a community culture where entertainment thrives, but also colleges are where athletes are discovered and start off their careers. People like to stick with one person or one team to root for, so that as they progress during their career, they can say that they've been there the entire time, and it's just more of a kind of parasocial relationship with that athlete if you've been following them for a longer time. In general, sports earn respect from students because it takes a different form of discipline than academia, and to be successful at both is extremely impressive. For some people, scholarships in sports are the only way they can get into higher education, especially in the United States where colleges are extremely expensive, which is why they know the importance of focusing on their sports to secure themselves a future. Now here's the big question, the one you've all been waiting for. How did this American dream cult of football land into Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue? Well, some people argue football is just as Canadian as it is American, at least in practice. Although the sports differ slightly in each country, the concept of hype and entertainment remains. Not to mention Canada has many cultural similarities to the United States because of our close order of operations, at least in the past, during the formation of the countries that we now know. American media has always overshadowed ours. It's no surprise we grew up American. From language to culture, we are not that different, for better or for worse. The cult has seeped its way into our bedding, and now we lie in it. Gag hit. Well, to wrap up this kind of serious video, American football is that deep, and there's more to the game that meets the eye, for better or for worse. Entertainment is important for us humans, but sometimes to be a part of that entertainment is just as harmful as consuming it. All this to say, football is a big part of our school, and it is concerning a little bit, especially due to some of the traditions that have been normalized. But it's built into our history and has become just as Canadian as it is American. So responsibly enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday, and go Islanders!